Welcome to the Aegis booth here at IPC Expo. I'm delighted to be joined by Jason Spera. Lovely to see you again, Jason.
Good to see you, Trevor. Thank you.
So, quite a few new things happening here, but I first want to start with one of your big announcements last year, which was the tie-up between Aegis and Arch Systems. Arch Systems, who are obviously experts in the AI business, and you have a very strong footprint on the production line itself. And you've sort of basically come together to merge these capabilities. Give us an update on how it's going and where it's going.
Yeah, thank you for that. It has been a great relationship between the two companies. And the bridge that we talked about last year, the Aria bridge, the intent was to share the very large data model that Aegis collects and forms from all operations information, the machines, humans, materials, everything, because that is of value to Arch going across the Aria bridge in order for their insight engine to make recommendations and learn from it and then feed that back to Aegis. That was the intent, to drive like automated continual improvement. But now it's an interesting technological thing that's occurred is with the advent of all these new ideas of how to apply AI, that bridge of sending Arch data has actually become more valuable because Arch is taking it forward into new AI applications that leverage, well, frankly, only really can be fully leveraged with a data model of our scope. You know, you'd have to piece the data together otherwise. So it was not intended to really do some of these things that are being built out now, but it wound up being a great mechanism for doing it. So that the partnership and the value for the market expanded beyond what we originally intended, which is always nice.
That's great. So, I mean, give me a couple of examples of exactly what you've built it out, you know, how you've extended it.
Yeah, well, we actually, the architecture of the bridge between the two systems didn't really have to be extended because it's a request model where Arch, their architecture basically asks for data from our system. So for example, if they're connected to, as they have their IoT adapters to tons of the machines and they're already there, but we turn effectively human operators on the floor into a data source. As you know, we have access to the CAD design of the product, we have the materials awareness, so we can augment their data. So they can ask us for, well, we're interested in that to fill out our model on their side so the AI can act upon it. And from where it goes there, forward from there is really now it's starting to look unlimited with these AI capabilities.
Yeah, it's amazing. You do have access, you do have a very rich data set from the factory floor, and that's, you know, starting to produce some really useful results. For example, I believe that you've got some systems where you can optimize the response to any defects or calls on the factory floor. Tell us about how that works.
Yeah, there's actually we have systems for that internally as to react to the real-time situations going on the floor and advise the operators or change process control. But Arch has their AI goes to a level like, for example, with downtime codes from machines. It's a notorious issue in that, you know, operators may not put the right downtime code in or they don't put it in at all, and all of a sudden now the analytics that rely upon that drift. And their AI will actually, it performs these functions on the data and looks at context and then, you know, the history, and it actually can improve the accuracy of the downtime codes. And it might seem like a narrow thing, but when you think about it from an analytical, it's actually profound, the effect it has on the data integrity with the analytics that Arch is providing. And then in the back end, we're providing more context across the entire process, not just the lines, that augments that as well.
And you're also analyzing who is actually responding to some of these issues.
We have full operator awareness. We know who's approaching a station, they also know who reacted to something. So yeah, it's interesting because a lot of models, I think, neglect the human as a critical data source in the factory. It's almost as if we act like the machines can run the entire factory on their own, and maybe someday, but not quite yet, right? So the human is actually a valuable element in the data model, or populating the data model.
So what are some of the other great benefits that you've learned over the last sort of 12 months? I believe you've also been able to improve the way that companies measure their inventory or they do their audits?
Yeah, we've come out with our second generation of our shop floor material control system, and one big part, there's a lot of detail in what our upgrade involves, but one area that maybe it's not the most terribly exciting thing when I first say it, but it's incredibly important financially for the customer, is inventory auditing and cycle counting, which is more often than not in companies, they'll choose times in the year, maybe once or a couple times, where they do a shutdown simply to do a physical audit of their inventory so they can make sure it's accurate, because the ERP counts and so forth tend to drift from reality because of everything that happens. We have this new tech where all sorts of algorithms in it can be tuned by the manufacturer to say, well, we actually want to spread cycle counting out across the entire year in very small increments. So instead of shutting the factory down and bringing in operators and overtime to conduct it in a big bang, it's actually done in very small events that are tuned to not interrupt production, and yet the accuracy of your counts is just as good, if not better, because you're spreading it out, which is a very easy and large savings for the company. This is not disruptive to production.
Exactly, that's saving time, keeping more productive uptime. So that's got to be a win-win. So Aegis does a lot of, you do have a lot of customers that are involved in military and that type of sensitive work. And of course, in the military field, you've got to have different protocols. You've got ITAR, but then you've also got, more recently, CMMC. It's a software company. It's very important that you're qualified for that. So tell us about that journey.
Well, as you said, we've always had in fact, third parties have said we basically have best-in-class support of ITAR data control for our defense customers, so that was covered. And then we embarked on the CMMC certification process, and we did become compliant, so we're really happy about that, because it's actually a good best practice in general, beyond the fact that the evidence of compliance is needed, especially coming in 2026. Defense contractors will require it, so we're glad that we cleared that hurdle, and it was actually less onerous than we thought it was going to be, because our cybersecurity profile was already in good shape. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on that, Jason. So lots of things happening then here. What can we expect to see from you in the next 12 months going forward?
Well, the one thing that's coming out in our next release, which I think is about 12 days away, is something I credit a customer in Europe about, is a new form of outputs. And the way I could explain this one is, if you think about an MES system's analytics and outputs, they're generally, if not always, looking at what did occur. So traceability, or even a Pareto or quality, it's what happened, and you're analyzing evidence of what happened. And this customer approached me at an event and said, we value your system, we know the value we're getting, but has it ever occurred to you that as Factory Logics is running our factories, we never see the issues that it prevented from occurring, only what actually did happen? And I thought, when the gentleman was saying this to me, I thought, this is embarrassing that we never thought of that before. So we build out all these data generators that now show the customer, as it's operating, these are the things that would have happened if Factory Logics were not running the factory. So examples. A unit gets to the ship. One of the most embarrassing things that can happen to a customer is a unit gets to the shipping dock, it has problems, it escaped test for some reason, and it's about to go to a customer with a problem. If one goes there and we stop it from going onto the truck, we have evidence in the reports that this happened 5 times last month. 10 times an operator approached a station they weren't certified to be at. 100 times a unit was kept from going down the wrong route, and so forth. Basically, all the crises that would have occurred that would cost the company money or embarrassment, Factory Logic stopped them. We didn't used to actually have reports that would show the company, oh, look at all the things that went well because that MES system was present. So it's actually kind of it's funny it took us so long to build this, but we're looking forward to customer reaction in the field.
So do these reports show the decision tree that was taken for that action?
Well, that's a great question. that actually is visible through our CAPA system, our corrective action, preventive action system. So when a nonconformance does happen, it can be guided through a process where people review it, someone comes up with what the corrective action should be, and then the effectiveness of that action is then assessed electronically, and the cycle repeats. So you can actually see that if you're running our CAPA solution.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, they're always evolving and coming up with new technologies. I love your partnership with Arch. I think the two of you are really at the top of your game, and I want to thank you for bringing us up to speed today.
It's always a pleasure, and thank you for having me.